Such beautiful music. Good morning and welcome to Mount Vernon Unitarian Church. My name is Becky Brandt and I'm a member of this congregation. Whether you're a visitor exploring the possibilities of MVUC or you're a longtime member, know that you are welcome and we're glad you're here. Our church is offering Sunday services both in person and virtually, and whether you're here in the chapel or joining us from home, you're welcome. We gather to recommit ourselves to the mission of this church, to support one another in our spiritual journeys, to work for justice, to care for the earth, and to build the common good. It is great to be together. This morning, I'm so pleased to be able to introduce and welcome Laura Powell-Haney to our pulpit. Many, or all of you, may know that Laura is serving MVUC as our interim Director of Religious Education. Laura has a Master of Divinity and is also currently serving as a campaign lead for the UU Legislative Ministry of Maryland. She's served 3 congregations as religious educator and multiple Central East Region congregations as an itinerant preacher, and independently as a pastoral care provider and officiant. Laura volunteers with the UUA's Side with Love and Spiritual Nourishment Squad, and her favorite spiritual practices include meditation, drinking tea, and standing barefoot on the earth. Please help me welcome Laura Powell-Haney. This morning, we also have a guest musician, Andy Schuler. Welcome, Andy. We've already had a taste of his thing. And I have 2 additional announcements this morning. Today is the last day of the greenhouse plant sale. Prices have been reduced, and it's worth a look. So stop by today at the greenhouse, and the greenhouse crew wishes to thank everyone for their support this year. Secondly, June 8th is right around the corner. Thank you to all who have signed up to participate in the DC Pride March. Just for your information, the parade route is 1.2 miles long, and the start of the parade is 3 p.m., and due to the massive amount of participants, it may conclude all the way up to 7:30. Participants are encouraged to metro to DC, and we have not been given our exact location of our staging area. That'll be shared with us on May 29th. And this is to acknowledge that it is a huge time commitment that day and will involve lots of walking. If you have a concern, please consider supporting the Pride March by sending us off from the church parking lot at noon or finding a comfortable spot along the parade route to cheer us on. If you have questions, see Bonnie Brandt. Now, let us turn our hearts and minds to worship. We come now to the morning offering. MVUC asks each of us to show our spiritual and material generosity. Each week, we share the plate with a charitable organization that our congregation has selected. During the month of May, we share the plate with the Katie Tyson Foundation. As many of you know, Katie grew up in this church, and she was tragically killed in a car accident in 2009, returning from General Assembly. Her parents, Herb and Karen Tyson, created this fund in memory of Katie, and it is dedicated to kindling the sparks of leadership among Unitarian Universalist youth and young adults. It supports scholarships, grants, programs for youth, young adult projects, conferences, and community outreach, as well as attendance by youth and young adults at General Assembly and UU Summer Seminar. I invite you to contribute whatever you're comfortable with to the Katie Tyson Fund and to this church community. We are grateful for your donation. And now will the ushers please come forward?
So if we're going to repeat our covenant, inside the hymnal on the back cover. Oh, this is our chalice lighting, sorry. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism, a church of open minds, helping hands, and loving hearts. These are opening words from Lift Our Voices. We gather as leaders, as servants.
We gather as ears, as voices.
We gather as memory, as hope.
We gather as family, as pilgrims.
We gather as faithful, as skeptics.
We gather as objects, as subjects.
We gather as wisdom, as folly.
We gather as action, as reflection.
We gather as many, as one. As we are, we shall be. As we serve, so shall we lead. Love is the teaching of this church. The quest for truth is its daily task, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve life in community, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. This is our covenant with each and with all.
We'll begin this morning in your teal hymnal, hymn number 1028, The Fire of Commitment. Please rise and bow. If you are joining us online, please sing as loudly as possible. So now that you're warmed up, nothing quite like an octave reach. To begin, we're going right into another song, which is not quite as wide-ranging in notes as this first one. So it's number 402 in your gray hymnal. And the children and I have been working on this song for a little while. We have a couple of our singers here. But I would like to teach you the very simple hand motions we've been doing with this so that you can do this together. All right, so I'm going to do the hand motions 2 times. And you need a partner. I know, it's shocking, but here you are. You can do it yourself if you need to by this, but the first part is from you I receive. So with your partner, one of you has your palms up, and the other one has the palms down over top. So it looks a little bit like that, okay? So can we demonstrate? Like this? So that's from you I receive, and then to you I give means we're going to flip them. To you I give, okay? It looks the same, but it's not. And then together we share. We can grasp hands or wrists or fist bump, whatever makes you feel more comfortable. So that's together we share. And then from this we live. Could be a hug if you know the person really well and you have permission. Or you could hug yourself. That's okay too. All right? So let's do that one more time, and then we'll sing it twice through. Okay, you ready? So it's from you I receive, and then we'll flip. To you I give. Got it? And then grasp hands. Together we share. Again, it could be elbow or fist bump, whatever. And then from this we live. Got it? All right. Now we're going to sing it and do that at the same time. Thank you all so much. That was fun. I had a good time. We have a special prayer this morning called the Memorial Day Prayer by Reverend Barbara Peskin, and a very special guest to share it with you, our own Jill Russo Downing. Would you like to come forward? Who is a former Army, and we had to say this too, her spouse is active duty Navy. So, okay.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here this morning. If we could all take a deep breath as we work our way through this beautiful and difficult poem. Memorial Day Prayer by Reverend Barbara J. Peskin. Spirit of life, whom we have called by many names, in thanksgiving and in anguish, bless the poets and those who mourn. Send peace for the soldiers who did not make the wars, but whose lives were consumed by them. Let strong trees grow above graves far from home. Breathe through the arms of their branches. The earth will swallow your tears, while the dead sing no more, never again. Remember me. For the wounded ones and those who receive them back, let there be someone ready when the memories come, when the scars pull and the buried metal moves, and forgiveness for those of us who were not there for our ignorance. And in us, veterans in a forest of 1,000 fallen promises, let new leaves of protest grow on our stumps. Give us courage to answer the cry of humanity's pain, and with our bare hands, out of full hearts, with all our intelligence, let us create the peace. Thank you.
At this time, we have this beautiful ritual of lighting a candle. And this morning, I would ask that you light a candle in memory of someone who has passed, of someone who has served, of someone that you love, someone who you love. thank you. That was lovely. Lovely. Every week, this congregation reads a covenant that includes a line that inspired this next piece. And service is its prayer. In the few months I've been with you, I see that you all pray a lot in that fashion. But I'm going to use my prerogative as the director of religious education to lift up one specific group, because that's my job, but then also honor the many other ways that people serve here. So I'd like to tell you the names of the people who have been teaching and leading in religious education classes this year. And I'm going to name them specifically because sometimes you don't see them here because they're somewhere else on Sunday morning instead of sitting here with you. So I'd like to lift up their names if they are here, and I realize it's a holiday weekend, so they may not be, but if they're here, and I call out your name, and if I do it anywhere close to the right way, if you could just raise your hand so people could see who you are. Carol Fristinsky. Hi, Carol. She's also teaching our kids to sing some songs and do some ASL. Carolyn Lace. There she is. Hi, Carol. David Weisbecker and Renee Weisbecker. Bev Coakley. Wait, I know she's here. Oh, wait, there she is. Byron Peebles. Megan Wood. Cheryl Folk. Parker Collins. Ava Absher-Shantz, Oscar Castro, Oscar, Claire Brolin, Dale Peebles, there's Dale, Locke Walton, our tech support guy, Chris Edwards, who keeps track of our data for us. From our Whole Lives team, we offered the 10th through 12th grade level this year. Some of those names are going to be familiar. David Bender, Parker Collins, and Claire Brolin. And the Lifespan Spiritual Growth Council, who held this container this year. Carolyn Lace, Marty Bredick, Jill Russo-Downey, Laurie Connor, Catherine Fogden, Claire Brolin, Bev Coakley, and Anais Joubert, who was our youth representative this year. Without them, those marvelous things, oh my goodness. Without then those marvelous things that the children will tell you about if you ask them, do not happen. Teaching religious education not only supports the spiritual growth of the children and youth here at MVUC, teaching religious education will broaden and deepen your own journey into Unitarian Universalism. If you have ever thought of working with this vital ministry, talk to me about assisting this summer, getting a little taste. Working with a team in the fall. We don't do this alone. We do this in community and together. Ask about the experience of current teachers, too, who can tell you the joys and the sorrows of teaching. I taught for a long time before I became a director of religious education. And one of my greatest joys was probably my 5th year as a director of religious education. I was working with a group of children from kindergarten through 4th grade. And there's a lot of energy. Fortunately, by this time, I learned about energy management and dispersal. And the thing that happened, though, is we always closed our time together with some type of meditation. So I got to teach some meditation. We did some movement meditation. We did some sitting meditation. We did some breathing meditation. And I introduced this wonderful meditation from Thich Nhat Hanh, the teacher. That was a 4-pebble meditation. It has a very specific structure, and you get to hold some shiny pebbles, which all to the good, right? Little things to hold. And when I said, okay, let's gather for our meditation circle, one child said, can we do the pebble meditation? Oh, of course we could. You asked for that, absolutely. Friends, there were 15 children in this room from kindergarten through 4th grade. Some of them whose favorite thing to do was run around the room. And they all sat. And they chose their little pouch of 4 pebbles and held them like precious things. And we sat together and we did 1 pebble at a time from one hand to the other. Quietly, with attention and intention. And you could feel the peace in that room. And that is why I do this work. Come join us. I don't want anyone to feel left out, so if you have not yet experienced the joys and sorrows of leading a religious education class at whatever level, you have still served this congregation, because I know that. So let's take that metaphor of helping hands to its utmost extreme and start with the ever popular and necessary opposable thumb. So, if you have, in this past year, taken on a leadership role, whether it's the board or saying yes to coordinating a one-time project like, say, the auction, just that little thing, the plant sale or the book sale or the holiday shop, if you said yes, I'll do that, I'll coordinate that, you are a thumb, my friend. Okay, so remember that. Okay, so there's the thumbs. For the fingers, all of them, not any one, because we need them all. And we know what happens when you only use one. Those who said, yes, I can help with that. You're going to move the books? Awesome, we need that many people. Or set up the tables, or I have an idea how we could do that. Or if you ushered, or stacked chairs, or greeted, or organized and staffed the holiday shop, or cleaned up at any event, even if it was just taking your own plate to the kitchen. If you made chutney or brownies or coffee, you, my friend, are the fingers. All right, there you are. And then we come to the palms. So I'm going to cup them like this. I always think of palms like this. Those who nourish body and soul, those who do nursery or child care, who are on the care team, the coffee hour teams, the meditators, who sing or provide beautiful music, the things that really touch us deep inside. You, my friend, are part of the palms. Some of you will have more than one role, and you know what? That's okay. But I want right now all of you who have done any of these things to proudly lift your helping hands and show your thumbs and your fingers or your palms, however you want to show what you did this year. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Look at that. That's Beautiful. Everybody at home, did you see that? And see yours too? Did you see that? Did you see the number of helping hands right here in this room? Thank you for all that you do and all that you will do. I know, I don't let you off the hook. Thus ends our ritual of honoring the helping hands. Thank you. And here begins another story. It's still my mic. I had a great Uncle Mike. He was my great uncle. I only called him Uncle Mike because after about 3 times, great Uncle Mike is too much for little people. My great Uncle Mike served in the Army during World War II. Now, Uncle Mike didn't talk about his service, at least not with me, and not with my mom. He may have talked with my dad a little bit about it. They shared service in common. But I did know that he was in the Army and that he was a cook in the Army. And we know that the Army and just about any other service branch needs those people to keep going. So he was really proud of his time as a cook in the Army in Europe. I have one photo of him in his Army uniform. He is standing on the plaza in front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris in his Army uniform. It all still stands right there. And 50 years later, I stood on that same spot with the Eiffel Tower over my shoulder, not in uniform except my tourist clothes, and took the same photo. Here's the other thing about Uncle Mike. He was a first-generation American. Both his parents came over from Lithuania. His mother never learned to speak English, so she did have a community. There was a large Lithuanian community in Baltimore at that time. But Uncle Mike, as a young person, would have had to translate for her sometimes and do a lot of the grocery shopping and things. They arrived on these shores in the early 20th century. I had to correct myself. I almost said 19th, and I remembered what that was. And so it was in the 1900s that they came over. Uncle Mike was born in a row house in Baltimore, and he lived there his entire life until he could no longer navigate the stairs, and he and his wife had to move to assisted living. When Mike came home from the Army, he served in a different way, as a postman. He worked as a postman the entire rest of his working life, walking in Baltimore, delivering mail, checking in on people. He lived a life of service. My Aunt Helen also served because people who have family members who are in any of the armed services, they also serve. It's a totally different way, but the folks who remain home also have jobs to do to keep things going. So Aunt Helen also worked their whole married life in the same office in Baltimore. That kind of thing doesn't happen so very often anymore. Now, I have that connection with the Army. My dad was in the Air Force, so I grew up moving around up and down the East Coast. We never went too much further than that. But it turns out my spouse was also in the Air Force. And now my youngest son is also in the Air Force. The fact that my feet are still on the ground is kind of a miracle to me in that way. But I remember growing up how my mom had to hold the household together anytime my dad had to go. And he had to go. When you called, you went. So what I remember of my dad is mostly his uniform stuff, you know, trying on his big shiny shoes. And my favorite was the winter coat that he was issued, which would have kept you warm no matter what, but it was big enough to come down to my ankles, and my hands weren't visible. And when you pulled the hood the whole way up and zipped it, it was like a tunnel in front of your face, and our dog barked at me because it didn't know who I was. So I don't have a lot of memories of Air Force life per se, because that was tangential to my existence. We often lived off base. But I know that we were a military family. It's likely that almost everyone in this room has some connection to military service in some way, whether you served yourself, whether a spouse or a family member did, or an uncle or it's somewhere. The Department of Defense's financial report for fiscal year 2020 says that there were more than 2.1 million service members and over 770,000 civilian employees, making the military in the United States one of the largest employers of all. Now, to that number, add in all the non-military support services, all those family members who are keeping things going at home when the service members may be away. The teachers at the schools on or near bases, the librarians, the chaplains and therapists and counselors and physical therapists and rehabilitation folks. Oh, so many people. There's a reason it's all called the military-industrial complex. It is widespread and deeply embedded in our nation. It made me think a little bit about whatever latest big blockbuster movie is out there that has lots of special effects and stuff, but what you see is the amazing actors doing amazing things and leaping and blah, blah, blah. And then did you ever sit and watch all the credits roll by on all that? Somebody colored in a dot and they got their name on the list. That's awesome. So many hands to support and create. So I started wondering then, is church like a movie then? Granted, a lot of those other roles that get done are not paid like the movie folks are paid, but sometimes what we see the most is what happens up here on Sunday morning. But there's a lot that goes on to make Sunday morning happen, right? There's a lot that goes on to make that auction happen before that auction happens. They're the helping hands. So take a moment here. I want you to share with someone near you how you used your helping hands here at MVUC this year. Can you share what you did? Again, whether it was a leadership role on the board, or if it was cleaning up after an event, bless you for that. Thank you for all that. But can you share with someone near you what your helping hands did this year? We'll have just about a minute for that. Well, you all have been busy this year. Good for you. Thank you for that. All right, now no pressure or anything. But what are 2 ways you could offer your helping hands in this next year coming up? You have some time to think over that over the summer, but just as you're sitting here listening to all these things that other people have done, knowing that religious education teaching classes are a huge and beautiful thing, like I said, no pressure. What are 2 ways you could offer your helping hands in this next year? Go ahead. I think there's some good ideas out there. Does anybody want to shout out 1 or 2? Got any ideas? I'm not writing it down, so.
Social justice.
Social justice. And holiday shop, yes. Book sale. And the book sale. Oh, I hear a call for the book sale. I wonder who it was who said to help with the book sale. The Pride Parade, yes. And Pride Sunday, yeah. Care team, yes. Tomatoes. I love it, thank you. Awesome. All right, I would like to buy some tomatoes because we have a garden project going on here, and we have pumpkins and we have black beans sprouting. Did you know that? The kids planted some seeds just a couple of weeks ago during Children's Chapel, and they sprouted. I'm so excited. Now we just have to plant them in the ground. So, but we don't have tomatoes yet, so that's good, yeah. All right. You know there is something for you here. Whether it is to serve, whether it is to rest from serving, that's also a viable option, okay? That's why we do this together, so that sometimes we can lay it down and receive. I was thinking again about sometimes in the movies we have this particular picture of military life. And what I know from the very little that my dad told me about serving in Vietnam, he was a pilot or co-pilot, there was a lot of waiting. There was a lot of waiting, and then there was a sudden movement, action, go, go, go. And the one thing I do know about military folk is that there is a plan for how to get that thing done. There is a way to do it. And it gets done by this person. And each person has a role. They know what to do. And it gets done. We're working on that here, too. Here is a little different because who does what changes. And that's okay. And that is good. Every year, I preach so often on Memorial Day Sunday. I think it's often because settled ministers are often off this day, so itinerant preachers like me get called on. And I struggle with how to talk about Memorial Day. Because in Unitarian Universalist churches, we work for peace. But we know that there are people in the military here right now. A friend of mine who happens to be a Marine, she's a former Marine. She's also an ordained pagan priestess and a commissioned lay minister in Unitarian Universalism, and the current, as she calls herself, Grand Poobah of the Frederick Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans, one of the largest and most active pagan groups on the East Coast, Unitarian Universalism. She wrote a Facebook post the other day in anticipation of Memorial Day, and I kind of wanted to throw out everything else I had written and just read that to you. With her permission, Irene Glass said I could share this particular piece of it. It's a reminder. Celebrate Memorial Day by living intentionally, consciously, and responsibly, and with the full understanding of the cost of our policies, both foreign and domestic. Patriotism rings hollow without civic responsibility. Honor their sacrifice, those people who served this country. Honor their sacrifice by building a nation worthy of it. Exactly. As Unitarian Universalists, we too have a vision of the world that could be. With love with a capital L at the center of all, and hands and hearts and minds to help. Let's get to work together. Amen. And blessed be. Blessed be.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Friends, beloveds, go in peace, with love and hope in your hearts, with new ideas and possibilities in your minds, and with service in your thumbs and your fingers and your palms. Blessed be. Amen.